Hey everyone, Sebastian here, making a video today on a hack for the SAT studying. You might be wondering why there are two of me right now, but stick around and you will find out. So when people talk about hacks, right, they're talking about how can you study the most efficiently and effectively. And I see a whole bunch out there, and I'm going to go through some that people think are going to help but aren't going to help, and then I'm going to give you the one that I think is really helpful that a lot of people just don't do or don't think about. So let's give it a shot. So first, people are always like AI, AI this, AI that. I'm going to learn with AI, my AI tutor, and AI maybe one day will be great. In some ways, it is already great. Terrible for energy, but whatever. Well, you can learn about that. But regardless, it is not really going to solve your problem. AI tutors, maybe that's an added resource, ChatGPT type of thing, but that is not the hack I would recommend. Okay, so get that out of your head. I'm not going to be giving you AI. The next one is pills. No pills here. No pills. All right. If you need Ritalin, you're prescribed that by your doctor. Okay, great. I get that. But other people who are taking it without prescriptions, thinking I'm going to study for 12 hours, no, we're not going to do that here. Get that out of here. Buy pills unless you need the pills. But otherwise, get out of here. Next, Desmos. People think, oh, if I learn the hacks to Desmos, I am set for the SAT. And you know what? Desmos is super helpful. You should learn how to use Desmos. You should learn some of its tricks. But it's not going to help you on reading and writing. And in math, it can only take you so far. So again, Desmos, this one actually is a good resource, but not the best resource. Then experts like me, this guy, SAT tutors, okay? They can help. They are a great resource, okay? I'm sure you'd love to listen to me, but I am not the end all be all, and you should know that. So then, what is the end all be all? What is the great thing you can do? If it's not AI, if it's not pills, and if it's not Desmos or tutors, I'm going to show you right now. It is this, or this, or this, or even this. The color doesn't matter. What is it? It's a notebook. A notebook, a clean, beautiful notebook. It can be lined. It can have dots. It can be graph paper. It can be blank. And then you can have a pen or pencil, right, like this. And that's all you need. And what matters isn't the fancy paper, okay? And you might be thinking, Sebastian, did big paper put you up to this? No, trust me, big paper did not put me up to this, okay? They did not pay me to say this. Big paper is not involved in this at all, but notebooks can help a lot. I have my students have an SAT diary, and I'm going to go over how you use this SAT diary, because it's not just this is where you do your work. No, you can do your work in another diary and other pieces of paper, loose leaf paper in your head, but this is very specifically used for mistakes. Okay, so what you do is you take a test or you take questions you do, you grade it, you see what you did wrong, and then normally what people do is they grade it, they see what they did wrong, and then they're like, okay, I'm going to do 20 more problems like it, which is great. But what you really want to do first is note down what you missed, why you missed it, and how you can fix it, right? So let's say I have a question like this math question here, and I made a mistake, and I did something like 6, it's asking if 2 times 3t minus 10 plus t equals 40 plus 4t. What is the value of 3t? Let's say I distribute right. I know how to distribute. Let's say I get 6t minus 20 plus t. Oh, whoops. Plus, see, I'm already making mistakes here. Plus t equals 40 plus 4t, right? I did a video on this that you can see how to actually do it the best way, but I'm just pretending like I don't know how to do that. So I'm going to subtract 20. I'm going to add 20 to both sides. So I'm going to have 7t equals 60 plus 4t, and then I'm going to get 3t equals 60. And then I'm going to get t equals 20. And then let's say I put that as my answer, right? And that would be wrong because it asks for 3t, and 3t would be 60. Okay, so let's say I do that on the test or on the practice I'm doing. I missed this question. What do I do with that notebook? I redo the work, this time doing the right way, so I get my answer 3t equals 60, and then I make a little note. Like, you could do the note as being the mistake you made, so I could say, forgot it was asking for 3t. It was asking for 3t. Okay? Or you could just note, like, keep track of what question is asking for. Keep track of question. Either one works, right? Sometimes you can do both. But this way, it just helps you remember what you're doing wrong. You can also see what patterns, you can see the patterns of what you're missing, the patterns of what you're getting right. Mostly what you're missing, because what you do in it is you just make a mistake journal. So every time you make a mistake, every time you miss a question, you redo the work in the math, and then you make a note like, forgot what it was asking, or you write down the equation. Let's say you forget area of a triangle equation. You're like, this is the area of a triangle, right? So I'm going to give you another example. Okay. So let's say we had this math question here, right? In triangle JKL, cosine K equals 24/51. 24/51, and angle J is a right angle. What is the value of cosine L? And let's say when I did this, I was like trying to picture it in my head. And I was like, okay, cosine K is 24. It's asking for angle J. Okay, and then I'm thinking, and I'm like, well, the other angle will have to be, and then you're thinking, and then I'm going to be like, oh, the other one will be 27/51. Because 51 plus 24, or 27 plus 24 equals 51, right? That's not right. What you want to do, right, is draw it out. So my first mistake was trying to do it in my head without drawing this out. See already, angle J is the right angle. K, L. So cosine K, so 24/51. What is the value of cosine L? Right, and now I remember Pythagorean theorem, 24 squared plus L squared, I'm just going to call it that for now, equals 51 squared L squared equals 51 squared minus 24 squared. L equals 45. I have a video on how to do this question more fully, so I'll link to that here. And this one here, right, is, okay, so then I'm going to do, my note would be Pythagorean, remember Pythagorean theorem. And I'm not even going to write Pythagorean theorem, I'm going to write, remember a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and I'll also say draw it out, right? So this is just an example of what you can do in your journal. Very short, very quick, and you might be like, why can't I just do the math, and then do more problems? Because writing out your mistakes and writing out little tips for yourselves makes your brain remember it more. It's sending a signal to your brain, oh, this is important enough for me to write it out, and then the chance of you making that same mistake in the future goes down a lot more than if you just think it in your head, okay? Thinking is good, acting and writing as a type of action is even better, right? So this is another question I've done, and it's for groups of 25 or more people. A museum charges $21 per person for the first 25 people and $14 for each additional person. Which function F gives the total charge in dollars for a tour group with N people where N is greater than 25? A common mistake on this one, right, is to say, okay, 21 per person times 25 is 525. The answer is B. But if you watch the video I made for this one, you'll see that that's double counting, because then we're going to do 14 per person. So I would do the math out properly, right? And then I would say something like, don't double count. watch y-intercept, okay? And I'm sure your writing is a lot neater than mine, and I am happy for that, but it doesn't have to be neat. So if yours isn't neat, that's okay. And then you just note this, and as you're noting things, you're going to notice patterns, and your mind is going to get stronger. It's going to remember things better. Okay, I know this is a small, almost obvious method, but almost no one I know does this. None of my students do until I tell them, and it makes a huge difference. And you're like, okay, well, that helps in math. What would I do in like reading and writing? Well, I'll show you. Let's do this one here, right? So I've done this question. It's a Jane Austen novel that they're talking about, and let's read the passage, right? So the following text is from Jane Austen's 1811 novel. Eleanor lives with her younger sisters and her mother, Mrs. Dashwood. Eleanor, this eldest daughter, whose advice was so effectual, possessed the strength of understanding and coolness of judgment, which qualified her, though only 19, to be the counselor of her mother, and enabled her frequently to counteract to the advantage of them all. That eagerness of mind in Mrs. Dashwood, which must generally have led to imprudence. She had an excellent heart. Her disposition was affectionate, and her feelings were strong, but she knew how to govern them. It was a knowledge which her mother had yet to learn, and which one of her sisters had resolved never to be taught. I mean, that ending. I brought it up in that video I made for this. I love that ending. According to the text, what is true about Eleanor? Eleanor often argues with her mother, but fails to change her mind. Eleanor can be overly sensitive with regard to family matters. Eleanor thinks her mother is a bad role model. Eleanor is remarkably mature for her age. Let's say I said C, right? The correct answer is D, but I'm like, oh, she seems to be criticizing her mom. She must think it's a bad role model. But then I go back, I grade it, I'm like, oh, that's wrong, it's D. What did I do wrong on this question? Oh, looking at the actual text, right, she never actually says she's a bad role model. She just has an eagerness of mind, which leads to imprudence, right? So that's not really, that's too strong a statement. So too strong a statement. C is too strong. And then I would say, don't make big leaps. And that's all I would write for this. I would note which question it was, and then I would explain why my answer was wrong. Okay? And again, not too complicated. It could take you, 5 minutes for a question like this to write everything down, maybe less. And it makes a big difference. It makes each question that you do much more worthwhile than if you just did the questions and move on. You can't just be grinding out thousands of questions every time. All right, so something like this, right, is talking about the average rate of ablation. I have a video on this, which I'll link to. And with it, let's say it's asking for 28%, the average rate for blank, right? So, for example, whereas the average ablation rate for iron from AST dust is 28%, and then the correct answer should be iron from HTC dust is 90% because we're going to be comparing iron to iron, and we want to show one that has the high rates with the HCC and OCC versus the low rates. Okay, and I'm going to link to the video, but let's say I went with iron from STBC dust, right? Then I would say didn't compare high versus low. Watch out for last sentence, right? That's all I would write. I'm watching out for the last sentence because the last sentence gave me the meaning I'm looking for, and then I'm noting my mistake again, right? Not too complicated. You can write neater, you can write full sentences, but it doesn't have to be involved, right? You don't have to write a whole paragraph for each question. And I'm telling you, this will save you time in the long run. It will make your studying much more effective, and you'll feel much more engaged with the material. All right, so then let's look at this one, which is one I just did during the English neoclassical period, 1660 to 1785. Many writers imitated the epic poetry and satires of ancient Greece and Rome. They were not the first in England To adopt the literary modes of classical blank, some of the most prominent figures of the earlier Renaissance period were also influenced by ancient Greek and Roman literature. So let's say I put D, right? Antiquity, however, where the semicolon goes before the however. Then I am saying that the however is pivoting between the first part of the second sentence and the second part of the second sentence. But it should be C, because however is helping pivot between the first sentence and then the first part of the second sentence. So for this one, I would just note check for where pivot occurs. Okay, and again, very simple, very straightforward. It almost seems too easy to be true, but trust me, this will make your studying a lot more effective if you start it from the start. Some people just do it naturally in their head, and then they also have good memory, but a lot of people don't think about this, and this forces you to break it down, where you made your mistakes, what tips you should take from it, and it helps you remember when you write it down. And you could type it up, that's still better than nothing, but I really like writing by hand. That motion just connects with the brain in a way that I think typing doesn't fully get to. But if you want to type, save some paper, do it that way. Again, Big Paper is not paying me, so I'm not going to get angry if you type. All right. So if you have questions on this, let me know. If you want further clarification on how to do it, I'm always happy to help with that. If you have your own study methods, I would love to hear them. And if you have doubts on this, please trust me, try it out for a couple weeks and see what happens. Okay. It is a simple technique that makes a huge difference. All right, so I will talk to you all soon. I hope it is sunny where you are, and if it's raining, I hope the rain is cleaning your windows and watering your plants. Bye.